The story starts one fall morning when I decided to do something I had never thought about before. I decided to go undercover. You know, I'm Franklin James, just an ordinary guy living in a city that's not too special. I own a chain of boutique wellness centers. I bought them a few years ago, and then the business grew quickly. We built a strong brand, loyal customers, and steady revenue. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore anymore. Customers started complaining, but not about prices or service quality. No, it was about the staff. Cold, indifferent, uncaring. They complained about waiting too long with no attention from the staff. One customer even waited for nearly an hour only to be told they were too late and couldn't be served. So, what was happening at my company? A question that wasn't easy to answer, and I hated vague answers. Those reports that district managers send me that don't give me real information. I wanted the truth, and I was going to find a way to get it. So I did something crazy. I decided not to be Franklin James anymore. I changed my appearance, switched up my style, and showed up at one of my locations as a stranger. I dyed my hair gray, shaved my beard, put on thick glasses, and wore an old polo with khakis. And that's how I walked into store number 5 of the 9 that I own. I remember, as soon as I stepped through the door, I felt it cold, silent. A young woman was sitting behind the desk, completely ignoring me, glued to her phone. Her name tag read Kelsey. She didn't look up once. She just typed on the keyboard, and then she said, "Go ahead and take a seat. Someone will get you." I sat by the window, waiting. 10 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 40 minutes went by, and she still didn't call anyone. No one came. Around me, customers were starting to get frustrated. And then, I stood up, walked back to the desk. "Excuse me, I just wanted to check if someone was going to call me." Kelsey didn't even look up. "I said someone will get you," she muttered, not even bothering to make eye contact. She just stayed there, continuing to scroll through her phone, completely detached from what was going on. A man next to me leaned over. "I've been here since 9:40. I think she forgot about us," he whispered. And I just stood there, unable to believe what I was seeing. This wasn't how a business should be run. I sat back down and waited some more, not because I was a customer, but because I wanted to see what would happen. Finally, over 2 hours later, when the clock hit 12:15, I stood up again. This time, I wasn't just going to wait. "Is anyone actually working here?" I asked, my patience running thin. Kelsey didn't even look up. "I told you someone will get you," she replied, rolling her eyes. I walked out, sat in my rental car, staring at the steering wheel. I had a choice: walk away and talk to the district manager later or go back in, not as a customer, but as a trainee. I decided to go back the next day. So, the next day, I returned, under a new name, Fred Jenkins, with a fresh disguise, buzzed hair, fake tattoo sleeve, and an application for the front desk trainee position. The store manager had been desperate for help. They were understaffed, so she barely glanced at my application and said, "You start today." I walked in, not as a customer, but as an employee, and I began observing. Kelsey was still the same. She showed up late, left early, didn't give a damn about the customers. She even walked away from the desk when there were clients in the lobby. When I asked her about the appointment log, she said, "Don't worry about it. No one really keeps track." The manager, Carla, barely showed up at the front desk. When she did, it was only to bark orders and then disappear into the back office. But then there was Shayla. She was in her mid-30s, always moving, always attentive. She wasn't full-time, but she worked like this was her second home. I began to realize, if it weren't for her, everything would fall apart. Then came the moment that shook me. I overheard Kelsey talking on her phone. "I don't know, some old dude waited forever yesterday and threw a fit." Like, relax. It's not a hospital. That old dude was me. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't just poor organization. This was a complete lack of respect toward customers, toward the business, and toward people who actually cared, like Shayla. I'd heard enough. The next day, I knew I had to act. I wasn't going to keep sitting back, pretending everything was fine. I would take charge. So, the following day, I walked in as Franklin James, no disguise. No fake name. No pretending. I walked into the store, and everything felt different. Kelsey was still her usual self, late, distracted by her phone. Carla, the store manager, barely made an appearance. But Shaylash was there. I watched as she moved through the day with ease, checking in clients, answering questions, making everything run smoothly. She was the one holding the place together, while everyone else just floundered. Around noon, Carla called for a staff meeting in the break room. She paced in front of a whiteboard that hadn't been updated in months. "Listen up," she said, scanning the room like she was daring someone to challenge her. "Corporate's been on my back about metrics. We're behind on upsells, we're behind on reviews, and appointment retention is dropping. I need everyone to push harder. If someone comes in for a facial, suggest the peel. If they ask about a massage, mention the deluxe. Don't let them leave without booking the next visit." "Got it." I could feel the tension in the room, but no one said a word. No one challenged her. Except for Shayla. She raised her hand. "Some clients have mentioned long waits. Maybe if we had one more person at the front, it wouldn't be so chaotic." Carla cut her off, frustrated. "We don't have the budget for that. We all do more with less. That's the job." Kelsey was still on her phone, oblivious to what was happening around her. It was clear to me that Carla wasn't interested in making real change. She was only focused on the number-son image, not on the people. And that wasn't enough. Not anymore. I decided it was time. That night, I called the district HR lead. "Kelsey needs to be removed today," I said. "There's no recovery from what I've seen, and I'm not waiting until the end of the week." The next day, a regional HR rep arrived. She pulled Kelsey into the back for a routine check-in. 15 minutes later, Kelsey walked out, empty-handed, not a word spoken. She had been fired. No drama, no scene, just a quiet exit. And then, everything changed. The store felt different. It was quieter, less chaotic. Shayla took charge, and without missing a beat, she stepped up. She handled the front desk like a pro, and I watched her handle customers with grace. The next week, I returned, this time without disguise, as myself, Franklin James. Shayla was already putting things in order. The new hires, Annika and Jordan, were catching up fast. Things were running more smoothly than they had in a long time. I noticed how Shayla was training the new hires, leading them with patience, showing them what needed to be done without ever acting superior. She was the real leader, even though no one had acknowledged it before. Then, at dinner one night, I made an announcement. "I know the last few weeks haven't been easy. You've worked through chaos, covered gaps, and held this place together when everything else was falling apart. You all deserve more than just a thank you. So here's what's changing. First, everyone in this room is getting a performance bonus, modest, but immediate. Second, we're implementing a quarterly check-in system not just for feedback, but for development. You'll have a voice in how this place grows. And third, we're starting a peer review system for leadership starting with me. No one is untouchable." The room fell silent for a moment, and then there was applause. Not loud, not forced, but real. Shayla stood up, and with a simple smile, she said, "I didn't do any of this alone. We all showed up when we could have walked out." I raised my glass. To showing up. To never ignoring what's right in front of us. And that night, as I helped close up the store with Shayla, I realized something. This place was better now. Not perfect, but better. And it had all started with paying attention, listening, and respecting the people who make the company what it is. As I walked out of the store that evening, the parking lot almost empty, the cool air surrounding us, I knew something had changed. For the better. The team was stronger. The store was stronger. And we were on our way to building something that truly worked, not just for the business, but for the people who made it run. Now, I'm asking you, what would you do in this situation? How would you handle the neglect and mistreatment? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Was it about power, control, or just the need for change? What's your take on leadership and respect in the workplace? If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real-life stories that challenge what it means to lead and work with integrity.